You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. The interview subject that I've got coming up for you is Frankie Palmeri from Emmure. Now, the reason for the chat with Frankie is to promote Emmure's new album, which will be out on June 26th via Sharptone Records. It's called Hindsight, and it is absolutely a killer release, one of the albums of the year by a long shot. Now, this is actually my first chat with Frankie since the last time I spoke to him, which is in 2016. A lot of water has passed under the bridge then. He was my second ever interview subject on this indie podcast and indie journalism odyssey of mine, and I'm well over 550 at this point, so it was sort of a bit of a milestone for me to actually chat to him again. I must say the first 2 or 3 minutes of the chat weren't recorded, and the reason for that is I've had all sorts of issues with my core recording software. I won't go into the many reasons, although if you use any applications via Mac these days, you'll know that Apple has been doing all sorts of updates, and same thing with Adobe and Skype, and oftentimes they're not compatible with each other, but you don't know that until you go to do what you want to do. Either way, the conversation did kick off with me sharing with Frankie that I think the band is extremely important to heavy metal in 2020, and Frankie graciously accepts the compliment, and then the conversation moves forward from there, and that's where we'll start things right now. So here he is, Frankie Palmeri from Emmure.
For you to say those kind of things, so yeah, it's
no worries.
Feeling.
Yeah, killer. Well, look, I might be wrong here because I've read a few of your interviews, but God knows whether or not people are quoting you appropriately or correctly. But I listened to a conversation that actually Josh had with Doc Coyle from God Forbid on his podcast as well. But mate, my question for you is, I understand that Josh creates a lot of the music and then brings it to you, not fully formed, but some of these sketches, some of these riffs and the like, and you guys then work on crafting a song. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I would say like almost 90% of what you hear is done like that. And then there's like those very rare moments where like I'll have a composition in my mind of what I would like to hear, and I use Josh as like a vehicle to kind of transpose it or whatever. So yeah, it definitely happens a lot, like you know, like you mentioned, where Josh will have like a riff or something like that, or something he's been working on, and I'll take it and I'll just tweak it and filter it in a way that kind of makes it more aligned with what I consider to be what this band is recognized for, you know, which is like fun, tenacious, like emotionally authentic, you know, progressive music. So
indeed, I think you just captured what the band is all about in a sentence there. I mean, it is a fun band. You're playing brutally heavy music, but this isn't depressing shit. This is not like doom metal, which I know has got that intention to it because it's meant to be something that causes you to reflect a bit. But yours is the sort of stuff, mate. You're driving along in the car and you're on the open highway, and you know, using our system, you're going 110 kilometers an hour instead of miles an hour, or you're at the gym, or you're going for a run, this sort of thing. Your music is truly an accompaniment to an active lifestyle, and that's obviously some of your intent as well, mate. So, you know, do you have? I know that guys like Chino from the Deftones and the like, they've got these side projects where the music isn't quite as full on as what their day job is, in inverted commas. So is that something for you too? Is that something that you're looking into as well, maybe doing something that is a little bit outside of Emmure, or is it just about Emmure for yourself?
I mean, I do like to create music on my own time in terms that isn't involved with, you know, Emmure as an entity whatsoever. I don't know what I'll end up doing with that stuff. I don't know if maybe one day I'll like release some kind of huge, like, mysterious discography, you know, music I've been writing over the years. But I like to put all my energy in terms of like aggressive music and that kind of output definitely into Emmure. I think that being that, you know, there's just such like a history with the band, I have so much more to gain by building upon that rather than kind of creating these distractions. I mean, I don't know. Right. I don't consider myself to be like an artist like a Chino Moreno, where like his voice, in my opinion, you know, could not exit permanently, but like step away from Deftones and still create something that Deftones fans or just fans of him will continue to like digest and you know, appreciate. I don't know if I have. I'm not to put limitations on myself, but I just don't know if I've got that in me at the moment. So it's just
Mm.
better for me to just put a lot of energy into Emmure, and not cause any distractions, not give people the opportunity to be like, oh, yeah, Emmure is cool, but this other project you're doing is way better. It's like, I'd rather just people focus on what I'm focusing on. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, and I think it's all the better for it. Yeah, the thing I love about Hindsight, mate, I think it's about 30 minutes long, and it reminds me very much in spirit of Rain in Blood. And the reason I say that is because I'm back at uni these days. I'm in my final semester. I'm almost done. I was doing an essay last night, but I think I had Hindsight on 3 or 4 times in a row. It's an album that contains so many hooks and there's so many deep layers there that I think even if you extended it out to say 45 minutes or so, some of that might have been diluted a little bit. So was that something too that yourself and Josh, did you go, mate, these songs, we're not going to repeat any ideas here. They're going to come at people once and that's it.
Yeah, I just feel like if something feels good, you know, presented as is, there's no reason to chase after it and dilute it. If that one part of the song is just so stand out, then that's where it stand out. I'm not gonna like stretch out, an idea just to get to that one really great part again. Like that was when it happened, and that's it. And I feel
Mm.
comfortable with that, and I like that. And just in general, like in music, I mean, I don't know like what other people, do in terms of their ideal arrangement, but I don't really care about like what uh, I guess modern or like contemporary like songwriting is. I don't really
Sure.
care. To me, it's
Mm.
like as long as the feeling and idea gets across, then the mission is accomplished. Then that's a job well done as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it's cool that
Mm.
from a listener perspective, like you're saying, like it hits you once and then you wish it would come back. But it just gives you all the reason to appreciate the moment for what it is even more. I feel, that's just my take on it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah. But look, the other thing too is I deep dive into some of the lyrics. Certainly, as you know, fans are fairly keen to understand what your thoughts are about things, and there are some lyrics that have already been posted to the internet from the songs that have been in the public domain, and there are plenty of clues as to what some of the lyrics might be about. But there is some discussion on some of the online, or yeah, Facebook, of course, that's the online forum these days, but about the lyrics to "I've Seen God." So, can you share what the deeper detail in those lyrics there, or would you rather it remain a bit cryptic?
Well, I've already explained it a few times, so I guess it wouldn't really hurt to say it here. But a lot of
Mm.
Amir songs, people don't probably realize this, but they're kind of schizophrenic in theme. Like I usually take two ideas that are not related and then end up intertwining them. They end up becoming one kind of story being told at the same time. And that
Yep.
happens with a lot of Amir songs. So with I've Seen God, um, the the part I should describe first is the lyrics "I both see and am God." I took that lyric or that line from a episode of The Simpsons I was watching. Uh, Principal Skinner is at like some kind of like science fair, and he accidentally eats like some kind of hallucinogen, and so he's hallucinating, and he says to I forgot what his boss's name is, Shalmer or something like that. He says,
Yep.
I both see and am God. And I just thought that that was such like a funny but like profound way to describe what like being in a hallucinogenic experience feels like.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's just one lyric I'm describing, but that's the source material. Is that was literally where I got it from, and then off of that, I concept of hallucinating and tripping and that kind of experience being as unique as it is. That's what the other lyrics are kind of based around. The "My eyes are reborn," witness suffering, that kind of thing is about
Yeah.
this the self-reflection, the self-reflective process you go through when you do have an extreme hallucinogenic experience. But then the rap part um, came to me because I was on the road, as I am, and I'm looking at like
Yep.
I'm looking at like tour flyers and flyers for festivals, and I just started reading off the band names, and I started to kind of make a rap out of it. I just started being like,
Sweet. Yep.
wow, like that's kind of cool that I could probably use all these band names and make a rap. And so when we were writing that song, initially the rap wasn't there at all, and I was just doing the I both see and am God lyrics. That was what the chunk of the song was and is.
Mm.
And then there was that break in it, and I'm like, what would be really cool here? And then I remembered, like, I've actually been working on a rap that might fit in this space, and so I just kind of interjected it. But then when you look at the whole thing together, it ends up being this kind of like very egocentric, antagonistic kind of song where, like, I'm not shitting on anybody. I'm not saying that anyone sucks, but I'm saying, like, you're all great, but not as great as me. That's kind of the attitude of the song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, it
So,
just goes back to what you're saying earlier about the band being full of bravado and the like. I think it matches it well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I knew that people would talk about it. I mean, obviously, at the end of it, I definitely want people to have something to, like, think about and ponder, because otherwise you're just, my idea with music and art is that, like, if people aren't saying something, then, you know what I'm saying, then, like, you failed. Even if they're saying it sucks, at least they're saying something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you want to invoke some kind of reaction from your listeners. So I knew that would get people buzzing, and everyone would be kind of trying to figure out what I'm talking about or what I mean. But yeah, it's definitely not like some kind of negative connotation where I'm saying all these bands are like less than or whatever. I think they're all good bands and good dudes and stuff. But obviously, I just was, like, trying to be creative and make something interesting for the song, and try to piece it together in a way that it all makes sense, so that, when you read the first lyric compared to the last lyric, you're not lost. It all seems to come together, even though, like I mentioned before, they're actually two completely separate ideas that just somehow ended up existing together in the same space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what your comments there allude to, and there's the dreaded word, controversy, that has followed you around for some of your career. And of course, that inspires some of the comments and some of the conversations that people then go and have on Blabbermouth or Invisible Oranges or the PRP. All of those things that I think, to be honest with you, mate, have been quite harsh to you in the past and probably just used you as a bit of clickbait. Is that something that you felt as well?
I think that in this kind of, like, game I'm playing with, like, trying to, like, be like a figure in music, which is obviously what my end goal is.
Mm.
It's better to be hated than ignored. And it took me a long time to get to that place to kind of make that realization. But I'm not, like, angry or upset about how I've been put in the press. I mean, there's been a lot of times where I've admittedly, like, done and said things that were low hanging fruit that are very easy to criticize and poke holes in, and say I'm this or that and whatever. I mean, that's all fair. But I don't take any of it personally. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I see it as, like, a gross positive. You know what I'm saying? I think that in the end of
Yeah.
it all, it's like, yeah, like, I'd be more concerned if people weren't saying anything, honestly, at this point. And
Oh,
I think
great.
that
Yeah.
I think that maybe gets lost on people. They don't really realize that, you're whether their intentions are to vilify me or whatever, deplatform me, whatever the case is. To me, it's like, yeah, I'm still in the real estate of your mind, which is the best place I could possibly be.
Yeah, good on you, mate. That's a good way to do it. Yeah, yeah. And look, I've got to go back and talk about or ask you a question there about LSD and trips, and ask you if you've seen the film Beyond the Black Rainbow.
No, I never even heard of that.
Oh, please do. Yeah, you'd get it. Yeah, that
Okay.
there's a 15-minute scene in that film that makes no sense even after the 10th watch, but then after that, just it's on YouTube actually. It's fairly easy to find.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
it's an
I just wrote it down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a truly amazing scene, and I think someone like yourself will understand that film quicker than most, actually, quicker than just about anybody else, really, because that whole film is a big acid trip, and I can't remember the name of the producer and director now, but he is a genius, and I'm just diving into the rest of his stuff. I think another film is called Mandy, and it's all truly, it's like, let's get a regular film, but let's make it as if we were on a trip or else taking LSD, and they just get it right if you're familiar with those things.
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. Now, just talk about your vocal again, because it's something that I've really enjoyed is your evolution on that front, because mate, it's just vicious on hindsight, and I'd like to know how you've achieved that, because a lot of people try to put that David Vincent from Where the Slime Live vocal effect on their voice, and it just sounds like shit. But you've done something similar, and it sounds epic. It's just brutal. It wants to climb out of my earpod speakers here and punch me in the face. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Tell me about what's the effect you're using there.
Well, you know, there's parts of what you're hearing that's just my natural voice. But at times I'll see comments and they'll be like, "What is that effect?" And I'm like, "That's not even an effect. That's just how my
Shit.
voice really
Yeah.
sounds." But it's what I like to do is I do enjoy taking what's already there because my voice is, for whatever reason, my voice has like a natural distortion to it. Like I know that sounds kind of strange, but if you were to ask anybody who's ever
Sure.
produced me, they'd say the same thing. There's just this natural overtone of distortion that I naturally produce from my voice. So you take that already distorted, kind of fucked up sound that I naturally make, and then I like to tweak it even harder and put it through just different kinds of vocal chains and just see what see what the end result is. I like to be experimental in that sense. I don't think it's a bad thing to make something sound almost unnatural. I think that makes it, in fact, more fun to listen to. That's the kind of stuff I like. I
Yeah.
like things that push the extremes. So that's definitely what I try to do. You know, with every album, or at least as I become more conscious of it, I try to be more creative in that sense, because I think that's what will really make or break the listener experience. Is
Sure.
the voice needs to have that kind of like special flair to it.
I agree. Yeah. And look, it has evolved, but I'd like to ask you, from whom did you receive inspiration early on? Was it the David Vincents and the Barney Greenways?
Dude, on some real shit, I don't even know who you're talking about. I'm not even trying to like,
Epic. I love it.
yeah, I'm not trying to like clown your. I don't even. Are they? Those are metal singers. I have no idea who they are.
Yeah, Morbid Angel singer and Napalm Death singer. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, yeah. Now, see, now the names sound familiar. I couldn't put it together, but
No, it's all good. Yeah,
yeah,
actually,
no, no. I
it's
I
good
like
to hear
those
you say that.
bands. Yeah, I
I've got
like
to
those
say.
bands. I like Morbid Angel and Napalm. I think they're dope. But those are I wouldn't cite them as inspirations musically or anything like that. I do enjoy them.
Was it more of the hip hop artists that you were sort of inspired by when you first started doing this?
No, I mean, like, I just grew up in a house with music. Like, my parents were country and like singer songwriters from like the 60s and 70s. Like, that was my parents like jam. And then obviously it was like the MTV generation. So my older brother was into like Metallica, Faith No More, and my sister
Nice.
was
Mm.
Paula Abdul and Snow and Backstreet Boys. And so I just grew up hearing everything and I liked everything. And then as I got older and made my own kind of discoveries of bands and artists I gravitated towards, and those end up being the ones that really, I guess, inspired me. Like people like Jonathan Davis, Fred Durst, Seth Putnam, Jamie Josta. I mean, really, the list goes on and on. Carly Coma from Candiria, and just there's, if Corey Taylor from Slipknot. I mean, honestly, I spent a lot of my youth being like ages like 11 to 14, just like in my parents' basement, like just singing along to records. Like that's all I would do. Would
Sure.
pretend
Yeah.
I was putting on a private concert, to nobody, and just sing along to these albums and emulate all these people. And then I'm just kind of like I'm just like a concoction of all these people that I emulated over the years, pretty much in my own style.
Yeah, okay, that's great. I mean, what you're doing is extremely original, and it sounds like it's entirely original. And I was actually, I think it's very refreshing to know that you didn't know that David Vincent was a Morbid Angel and Barney was in Napalm Death, because I think, especially musicians, we sort of get conditioned to go in certain directions based on bands we like and based on what they say as well. I'm a musician as well, you see, and I know that I've done that a little bit in the past, where as a youth, no, I'm 42 these days because I really don't give a shit. I like whatever I like, and that's it. But
Yeah.
as a musician, yeah, I think you've got to be inspired from wherever you get inspiration and just go with the flow.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely never shy away from what inspires me, and artists I've liked. I've never had any kind of like feelings of like guilty pleasure or shame about the things that I enjoy. So music is no different for me. Like again, like I do like Morbid Angel and Napalm Death and stuff like that, but they're just not in like my zeitgeist of people I reference when I say like, yeah,
Sure.
like those guys really, set me up to where I am now or whatever.
Mm. Hey, just talk about Josh, because I think he's as important to heavy metal in 2020 as to what Trey from Morbid Angel was to heavy metal back in 1992 when the band released Blessed Are the Sick. Morbid Angel, my favourite all-time band, so I go right into those guys. But I digress. And the reason I say and make that comparison is that I'm actually hearing a lot of emerging bands sound like Emmure these days. And the way Josh is playing guitar, when I go back, I can hear that shift. It's when Josh joined yourself and he got that prominence that you were able, that platform, if you don't mind me saying, that you were able to help him achieve. He's always a great guitarist with his previous bands, but I think with Emmure, he actually finally got that audience he deserved. Um, but look, you might have told the story in the past, but can you tell me how yourself and Josh linked up? Because, again, as I said at the beginning of the conversation, I think what you guys are doing is you really are at the center of moving heavy metal forward in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I've known who Josh is for a long time, and the way we initially started talking was, via MySpace. This is like 2006, I think, or 2005. It was a long, almost 15 years ago, pretty much. And
Mm.
I just was listening to one of his bands, and I messaged them. I was like, "Yo, your band is dope. Like, who am I talking to?" And like, "Oh, it's the guitar player Josh." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Like, this is my band, yada yada." And obviously, MySpace was like such like a fucking pivotal tool, for DIY bands at that, in that era. And so
Mm.
I was just making connections with people like that, here and there. And he was someone I stayed in touch with and who I was always a fan of. And I always wanted to do a project with him. Like we would talk about it, like very seldom here and there. Like, yeah, that'd be great. It'd be probably really sick. And then obviously when the mass exodus happened in 2015, he was pretty much the first person on my hit list where I was like, yeah, I think this would be a great time to get him involved and see what this could become. And
Mm.
I think that the choice paid in dividends, in every direction. He's been such a boost for the band. Like so many people love that he's a part of this, and obviously his output is, I think, is some of the best material Amir has ever done. Period. So
Yeah.
it's been a huge positive all around.
Yeah, it's an outstanding partnership, mate. I really can't say enough positive things about what you guys are doing together. Because for somebody like myself that really came through the ranks and was around really when death metal broke and the like, I haven't heard anything like what you guys are doing for such a long time, and it's so refreshing. There are some great bands out there, like I've heard, Imperial Triumphant. They're a fellow New York-based band. There are some bands that are doing some new and interesting things, but they just haven't quite got the career that you've managed to put behind you yet. So it's just great to sort of have a new album. And I really, of course, I have no reason to believe otherwise, but another new album on the horizon sometime in the next couple of years because you have been prolific in your output.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have a new album out, like, honestly, as soon as possible. I don't think I'm going to wait another 3 years like we did with Look at Yourself in Hindsight. I'd rather just put out as much as I can while there's still, life in me. I don't know if it'll happen because of all that's going on in the world and just all this fucking, you
Oh
know,
God, yeah, yeah.
tribulation that we're all living through and stuff like that. So I don't know. I would like to say that new Amur record is like definitely something you could look forward to in the immediate future. But I'm just kind of playing it by ear.
Isn't it ridiculous what the hell's going on at the moment, mate? I mean, I'm on Twitter, of course, and I see the carnage and the chaos and the looters going into Louis Vuitton and Nike stores. How on earth that can help the cause, whatever it might be these days, because it seems to be changing by the minute. It's just ridiculous. And then, of course, we've got the yelling and the shouting happening over here as well, as you've probably seen it's happening in Europe. But, mate, are you, I mean, don't disclose where you're living, of course, but, mate, wherever you are in the United States, mate, is that chaos near to you?
Well, uh, it seems like every time there's like going to be like a new presidential race, that there's some kind of like crazy like I don't know, like social event that happens where like everyone
Sure,
seems to
yeah.
be politically charged. So I mean, I don't know. It's never been like how it is now. I don't have any point in history to you know re- relate this to or anything like that, but or measure it against. Like it's definitely like such a unique and crazy and troubling time to be alive. But I guess back to what I was saying with the music, it's like yeah, I'm hoping that this doesn't put the brakes on any any plans I might have. I really don't know where the world's heading. It's kind of crazy.
No, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I know. You're spot on. Actually, I was just thinking. I was listening to Dave Rubin before, and he had an excellent guest on from, oh God, let me tell you who it was just quickly so as I get it right. Dave Rubin talks to Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, and some of the shit that's going on there at the moment is just insane. And I do feel for people in the United States, because at the university I go to, there are a lot of kids and young adults there that do come from your part of the world, and some of the nicest people I've met are from your part of the world. But mate, I mean, it might not be chaotic, but certainly the scenes that I'm seeing on Twitter and everything else, on other social media platforms, is certainly giving the impression that the walls are starting to cave in. But I agree with you completely there. About every bloody presidential year, there seems to be something happening. And I mean, at some point in time, families and the like just want to be left in peace to raise kids and go about their daily lives. And that's across all spectrums. You know, that's not a racial thing whatsoever there. But, mate, what do we do? We are mere mortals and mere players in this game of life.
Yeah, very true, man. Well said.
Mate, you can tell I'm a fan. I love what you've been doing. Thank you so much for the conversation. If you're comfortable with everything we've spoken about, I plan on releasing it for my podcast series.
Yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with the recording, so hope people that hear it enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Actually, final question is, I know you were down, and it's impossible to say potentially, but are there plans on the horizon to come back down here again?
Yes, I mean, nothing concrete, but obviously, if anyone would be willing to invite us, we would love to take the trip. I mean, we've got the time, we've got the resources. We'd love to come perform again, especially down there where, it's been really good to us every time we've gone. So
Wicked. Yeah, fantastic, mate. All right, I'll leave it there. Well, congratulations on everything, mate, and hopefully we can catch up again in the near future.
Yeah, man, all the best.
Thanks, mate. All right,
Ciao.
catch ya. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that interview subject was none other than Frankie Palmeri from Emmure. Thanks so much for listening.